I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2024 movie Relay. So let's relay right into Relay and get this movie review started. Relay was a movie that I didn't have a ton of high expectations for. It's on Netflix, which is all right. Really, I'm only coming to this movie for one reason only, and that's because Sam Worthington is in it. And I've always had an affinity for Sam Worthington after watching Man on a Ledge, one of the greatest movies in our time. No, I'm just kidding, but action thriller, Netflix. I don't know if this is a Netflix original, but you get what you want. Like, I feel like you can group all these movies in the same sort of bucket, like The Rip, Relay, that other Gray Man. Like, they're pretty solid, but there's just like, it's just a certain level to it. But I thought the idea behind this movie was super interesting. This sort of like anti whistleblower who's like gonna help people who want to whistleblow and then don't want to actually go through with it. I feel like that's a never been explored before in media. I've never seen that explored in media really like this deep, like this relay service was super interesting. So that was a nice concept that kept me enthralled throughout the first half of this movie. I thought the main actor, Riz Ahmed, did pretty good in this. I haven't seen him as like a star role in anything, so that was nice. David Mackenzie, I don't know who that is as a director. So, they took a bunch of chances in this one, and I think most of them hit. Like, I thought this was a pretty kept you entertained. You definitely weren't like going to look at your phone or anything throughout this movie. You're on the edge of your seat. What was going to happen? What was going to happen? The twist at the end, I liked. There's some of that sort of cheesy thriller music in there, but it's not too distracting. It is what it is. But some of the parts I didn't like. I didn't like the romantic part of it. And all of a sudden he gets feelings and all that crap. Like, come on, this guy's ruthless. He's supposed to be just a contractor getting that money. And, the end gets a little bit ridiculous when he just starts going off on people, but we'll talk about it. All right, so getting into my thoughts and reactions throughout the movie, starting with the opening scene of Hoffman, I believe his name is, sitting down at the table with the CEO. Now, this is the traditional way that they run the business. In order to completely seal off the deal that the information has been exchanged, you have to have the person who's not going to whistleblow take a picture with the CEO. And all I have to say about this scene, we kind of get the introduction of what's happening. Did DoorDash definitely sponsored this, where there's a clear DoorDash ad like right in the first like 2 minutes of the movie, and then after you see that DoorDash logo, they like pan out to like make on the second, like when they zoom out of the restaurant, you see the DoorDash logo again. So hopefully DoorDash got their money worth. Teaming up with Netflix, that could be a dangerous duo. Let's sit up at night all night and watch Netflix while we eat DoorDash. I feel like that's an easy collab if they ever want to go through with that. But Netflix definitely didn't have a problem with that DoorDash. I mean, maybe this movie went to theaters. I don't want to speak if this is a Netflix original. I'm not sure, but you get that. We get this information trade-off between Mr. Hoffman and this guy in a suit. I don't know this actor's name, but I feel like I've seen him in a couple movies. He's always the bad guy, but he's like, all right, we'll do what you want. And so the movie starts right away when the person who's going to whistleblow doesn't whistleblow, gets in the taxi. This is Mr. Hoffman, and he's immediately pursued. You're like, oh shit, he just signed his death warrant, and now he's going to die because there's somebody following him around on the street, and that person's going to kill him because he's a whistleblower, and some of that shit gets serious. you know, just for the record, I love life. I love living. You have to always say that just in case. But I don't know. I'm just geeking. I'm tweaking. Anyways, yeah, the guy follows him, and you're like, oh, is this a bad guy? But then he brings out the one of those like interpreters that it's like a monotone thing. You type into it, then it talks. I'm not sure the specific name for it, but that was a cool part of the movie too. Is how he, By the way, zero spelling errors for this guy throughout the whole movie, so that was interesting. But must be very practiced in typing. He uses that machine to talk through a third-party service on a phone call, which is a big part of the movie, and yeah, so we kind of learned that Riz Ahmed is our good guy, and we don't, he's kind of he's like the Fight Club guy, he's our main narrator, and which we'll have another point about Fight Club in a second. So that he's pursuing Hoffman just to make sure he gets on a train, and that's fine. But initially, like, what's going on? I have to say, it's a question to me: how do they clear out these places for the movies? I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. I was just in Grand Central Station. And this movie came out in 2024, not sure when it filmed. I was in Grand Central like 2 weeks ago, and it ain't all that. The tickets, by the way, there's nobody at the ticket desks, so that part was incorrect. And you have to buy the tickets on like the machines on the side. Those ticket windows are mad closed. and it did not look that busy in there, and it did not look that bright. Maybe, it's a sunny day when they were going through, but it was nighttime. Maybe, I know I wasn't there during the nighttime, but I thought that was funny. I don't know how much you think they paid to rent out Grand Central for like this like 1 minute scene of the guy getting on the train. But he gets on the train. He's basically just making sure that he is okay and he's safe on the train, and he gets to leave, like no one's following him, whatever. We figure that out later on once you have more knowledge about what's going on. He's now on the phone. He files away the information, and he gets called a parasitic scum. And we're lacking details at this point. So I was like, is he trying to broker the deal? Is that why he's getting called a parasitic scum? Good insult. I feel like that kind of encapsulates a bunch of different fields, parasitic scum. But I don't know. I think that's kind of a moral question if you want to really take a deep dive into this movie, which I'm not sure if you're supposed to like be thinking that hard during this movie. But is this guy a scumbag for brokering these deals? I think he just wants the best in people, and we kind of see that play out with his next client. So I'm not sure if the relay service is like you're supposed to look high morally on it or just like be in the middle on it. I think they're trying to do the best for people. I believe that, at least from watching the movie. So I don't know about the parasitic scum part, but the corporations ain't happy. They got to fork up all the money. Corporations, guys, you have money. You don't need to be worried about these third-party services. They're helping you out. You got your documents back. Chill. But, if you know the spoilers for later on in the movie, they're not chilling. Here's the Fight Club analysis. Does this guy think he's freaking the narrator from Fight Club going to AA meetings? And, I wrote this in jest because I think he's actually not just was an alcoholic for real. And, he tells his story later on in the movie, but I thought this could be like a capping like Tyler Durden situation. Like, not, well, Tyler Durden's, Tyler Durden, but the capping like the narrator in Fight Club. And yeah, he goes to the AA meeting, which will definitely pay off in the future. But instead of that, now he's got a new client on the phone. She's like, I need help. And he's now going Joe Goldberg on this girl, looking at every single thing she's ever done online, looking at dating sites, which I'm not sure how that's relevant to the situation of being a whistleblower, checking the website that she's on, what her company is, LinkedIn, Facebook, all that type of stuff. Not sure how prevalent all of that information is. I guess that's just like a validity check. And if so, you failed with the later on information we get in the movie. But, I guess you got to just dot your I's and cross your T's there in order to make sure you're dealing with somebody who's doing all right. Now, this woman, I haven't commented on her yet. The character played by Lily James, I believe her name is Sarah. Yeah, Sarah. I didn't want to be rude and I didn't want to sound like a misogynist, but this woman was not very smart throughout the movie, and you could tell like she was kind of very panicky and jumpy. Like there was something off with her. Like I wouldn't have taken this woman as a client just due to her personality, but that's just me. He's trying to make a quick buck off this corporation, and now thinking like through the end of the twist at the end of the movie, it's I did like that twist, but like this guy was really just a rookie. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Anyways, she's in a hotel room. She's cleared out. She's trying to be isolated from these people supposedly following her. And I gotta say, when I see you in a movie and you're drinking Voss water, I lose respect. This isn't Grown Ups 1. That was like the only thing I know Voss water from. Just don't drink Dasani, but like drink anything. Drink tap water. Voss water. What are you? High class? Come on, Voss water. I was like so annoyed at that. And just to set an example of what's going on, they set her car on fire. Now that like it's hard to review this first half of the movie knowing the twist, but like that was a good example, I guess. They set her car on fire, and that's like, oh shit, she's really in trouble now. It is what it is. There's this awesome ruse scam school scheme ran by the main character, our relay service guy. And I have to mention there is this relay service where, they call him, but he's typing on the phone. It's through like a third party. So these people get calls. They're like, you have to always say go ahead. And they always ask like for code words and stuff. It's very thought out. It actually is a cool... I wonder if there is like a relay service in real life. I doubt it, but you never know. That's an interesting idea. That is a strong part of the movie, in my opinion. He runs this ruse to get her to submit stuff at the airport and like fake them out just to see what he's dealing up against. And so he's actually there in person as well. And he is able to see what he's up against, which is Sam Worthington. Sam Worthington's the villain, was hype. And One nitpick I will say, realistically, I don't think somebody would care that much about somebody missing their flight. Like, she's supposed to be on one flight, she doesn't show up to the gate, or she does show up to the gate and then is, pulled away to go do side tasks. I feel like the people at the gate would not care that much about this passenger missing. You know, they get their money and that's it. So I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit unrealistic of the airport person being like, "Where is Sarah? Where is Sarah? Where is Sarah?" Like, they would not care that much about that. They'd be like, "Sarah, you have one last chance to come on the plane if you want to." A flight, where was it, to like Houston? I don't think people care about that, but that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Airport workers out there, let me know. So yeah, again, Sam Worthington I thought was pretty cool as like a villain, and he's kind of this like hardened exterior, henchman leader who's like knows what to do and is just keeps getting continuously fooled and fooled over again. But is he though? Because they do a good job of really keeping this twist towards the end of the movie. But I think his whole point was just to get to the relay service guy and get to back to the Hoffman deal. And, he's kind of failing at that, so maybe that frustrates him, but he gets pretty frustrated throughout the movie. Go along, I could tell our main character was, he was starting to simp, man. Why do we need love in every movie? Why can't he just run a relay service and be a cool guy? Like, why can't show us this movie with Mr. Hoffman as the main character and then Sarah's like Mr. Hoffman, reverse the roles? Why does it always have to be love? Like, he's like stalking her. He basically, morally, he is kind of Joe Goldberg. He kind of pulls a Joe Goldberg with Guinevere Beck, when and this is from the TV show You, if you don't know the reference. He's like staring at her through the window, reaching up on her socials, being like all worried about her and shit when she doesn't even know what he looks like. Come on, man. So he's like really starting to care for her, and then she leaves this extra long message when she's like, I know you're not going to listen to this part of the message, but I really am like lonely. Are you lonely? Lady, he's going to listen to the fucking message. He has to make sure you're okay. Of course he's going to listen to the entire message. Like, that was so annoying of her. Like, you're a dope. You're an idiot for thinking that he wouldn't listen to that part of the message. And, maybe it was all part of like big scheme of Sarah, but who knows? He has to listen to the whole message when you're talking because he has to make sure you're safe and there's code words and all that crap. Of course he's listening to the entire message, and you probably knew that, but just to say that out loud is pretty dumb. So we get another intense scene of she forgot an appendix C in the document. And this is, now that I know what the end of the twist is, you can just realize this is a smoke screen to get the guy out in the public. But Sarah, didn't bring the whole document, and now she has to put it under a newspaper at a newspaper stand, but she puts it under the wrong newspaper, and then still somehow our main character is able to scheme it away so he gets it and runs away. But they do have like a partial facial print, but it's 2024. Facial recognition is not a thing where you have like this much of your face and you don't have enough. I don't know. Who knows? But they are just trying to get this guy's identity to get back to the Hoffman stuff. It is what it is, and they're not able to. He does really good for like an hour and a half of this movie, really, until he starts simping at the end. We get him at the AA meeting. We saw him there, I think, one or two times before this, but he speaks up for the first time. I believe, his mentor, Wash, was like, you should speak up. And he actually tells his story. I was a Muslim kid growing up. We're not supposed to drink alcohol, but I got to Wall Street, and then people put pressure on me. So that kind of explains his backstory into why he wants to be help the whistleblower people. Like, there's, I wanted to live my life free and not have to deal with the backlash, but also not whistleblow and get in all that trouble. I thought that this was a little bit of a random addition to the movie of him being like this, Alcoholic Anonymous and stuff. But what do I know? I guess that was like a big part of it in the end because it saves him. But I thought that was like just kind of randomly thrown into points. It wasn't really a consistent through line. Once again, Sarah screws it up where they're, have everything planned where the CEO is supposed to meet her and take a picture. And, this should be easy. This should be simple. But we still have like 15, 20 minutes left in this movie. So, of course, it's not going to be that simple. I think there's probably actually more time. But I was a little like, I thought that this company, there just wasn't a CEO and they were like scheming on him. And that's what like their whole angle was, like Sam Worthington's character. But we know the real reason now, but she's just so dumb to have taken this deal. Like, they know your name, and her name, they don't even have the right name. They just bait with like a random name. And he's like, no, you can't do that. So she goes to a theater where they're supposed to exchange the documents. Sam Worthington and his team, there's like this other woman as well on the team and these two other guys. They slowly emerge from the entrance to the theater to go get her. and then he sees it from the top deck. He's always watching. Easy money, just pull the fire alarm. That was my instant thought. Straight out of the Michael Scofield season 3 playbook. Pull that bitch. Everyone has to leave on normal terms. You can't do anything. Seemingly, you can't do anything except unless you're him and you break a chair and stab one of the guys and trample him. When did this guy become freaking, James Bond, Jason Bourne? Jeez. But yeah, stabs this guy in the back with something. This guy's going to be fine in like 10 minutes, though, and just tramples him. This is when the movie starts to really, go to that next level, of, I don't know what's going on. Well, you know what's going on, but it's like this just got crazy all of a sudden. In the van, she called. They once again get her, even though he watched her go on the train, just like he watched everything else. He comes up with this last complaint. He's like, "You go to Poughkeepsie, I'll do this, I'll do that." And I thought they were just baiting him with AI using her voice, but no, she's actually captured. I don't know how they actually captured her. She probably just walked up the train station because I'm talking about when I was actually watching the movie. So they do actually have her. I was like, oh fuck, I did not expect that. And we get the reveal when they're fighting in the van. Of course, he's Jason Bourne now, don't forget. So he breaks out of his restraints, knocks one of the guys out into the highway. And then that guy, I don't know what happened to that Asian guy. He's just out in the highway while they're in the back of this van. And it comes down to him, Sam Worthington's character, versus the main character, Riz Ahmed. And Sarah tases Riz Ahmed. So this whole time she was double agent, and they're like, this was about Hoffman the whole time, you fucking dumb bitch. And it makes sense because Sarah was actually doing really dumb things throughout the movie. Kind of that shaky, nervous character that was easy to act like you're that person. And so I was genuinely jaw dropped at that moment. I was shocked at that moment. It is a pretty simple twist, and probably in the grand scheme of things, but I was like, no way, But that was a nice one to add onto there. So good job there. And we get to this chase scene where he's running through the city, probably for 10 minutes, just evading cars, evading all 4 of them, hiding in the trash, getting out in the trash, going by the river. Ultimately, Sarah comes back, has the chance to shoot him or do something. Well, actually, first of all, he admits to having this information that they're looking for in Hoffman. He's like, I'll bring you to the lair, whatever. And they're like, all right, let's go. But then he has this escape plan where he smokes up the room with a key passage, which was cool. And then he's running away. They're chasing after him. And it comes down to Sarah having the chance to confront him, but they still need his passcode in order to get into the files and get to the information they're looking for. So if you shoot him, there's really no use. But he's like, I think he realizes that in the moment. He's like, shoot me then. And she's like, she can't do it. And who comes to save the day? Wash. The person he was with in AA, she did have an offhand comment of mentioning that she was a cop. But she's here to save the day with 17 cop cars. He's like, I got the information. They've been trying to, pressure people into whistleblowing, and I have the documents that they have illegal stuff. And that's it. They get Sam Worthington and his team get arrested. So this whole time they were just scheming on the first person we see, Hoffman, trying to get his information back and trying to eliminate him and get whatever file he had, that he keeps a safety copy just in case something like this does happen. Some valuable information in there. And she saves the day, Wash. Our main hero, Wash, who was in the movie for 5 minutes. But that's it for that. He then sees them go to jail, gets on the train to go back home. He's kind of intimidated that these 2 people on the train are following him now. He's kind of going to be tweaked out the rest of his life, but they're just old friends. They talk. And then he sees someone reading an article about how those people were running their scheme and, how they're scumbags that are arrested now due to Wash. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a 7.8. I thought it was pretty, solid watch. Definitely keeps you entertained throughout. However, there were just some classic, cliche moments, and yeah, the end got a little bit hectic, and I didn't like the romantic arc where they kind of tried to play that Sarah thing too, oh, she cared for him, so she wasn't going to shoot him. It's there's no point in shooting him. You need him alive. So that was kind of stupid in my opinion too. But yeah, pretty much a standard. I feel like all the movies I have in this group at a 7.8 or 7.9 or 7.7 are pretty similar. I do enjoy watching these movies, but they're not my favorite movies of all time. They're pretty good one-offs, or if you come home drunk and you want to watch something that's cool for a couple minutes. Relay could do that for you. I think, there's definitely worse movies you can do than Relay. Does this movie relate to the other movies we reviewed so far on the Dubcast? This is number 46 of 105 movies reviewed so far. So this does tie The Gentleman, The Illusionist, The Amateur, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Flight. I do like The Gentleman and Illusionist over this one, and then this movie over the rest of those movies mentioned. So kind of in the middle of those 7.8s, obviously all 7.8s, nitpicking there. This does lose out to Nightcrawler, which Riz Ahmed is in Nightcrawler, so this becomes the worst of two Riz Ahmed movies, and this does lose out to Hacksaw Ridge as well. Sam Worthington in both those movies. This becomes the new lowest Sam Worthington movie. And yeah, that's where we'll leave it on Relay. What did you guys think of Relay? I've seen mixed reviews on it. I thought it was a solid watch. Would I watch it again? Nah, maybe not. But I think for a one-time watch, it was. I watched it on a Saturday morning. It was, kept me in it enough. So I thought that was a pretty solid watch overall. Not the best, not the worst. Kind of your standard run-of-the-mill action movie with a nice twist at the end, and a cool concept behind it too. So there you go on Relay. What's coming up next for the Dubcast? We had Wednesday night Survivor episode 12. Only 1 week left of Survivor. Stay tuned next week for the finale of that. TV shows coming up. I'll be covering Silo season 3, House of the Dragon season 3, and then movie reviews. You never know what you're gonna get. I got my watch list of 120 movies. You never know which one's gonna come next. Hopefully, a lot of movies this summer and in general. While some of the shows and sports are in off season. And speaking of sports, you can expect UFC numbered events or big events like the White House will be covering those with Shane, and then NBA, we're doing round by round live streams. So next live stream will be when the second round ends, right before the conference semifinals or conference finals, begin. So that's what we got in the docket for the Dubcast. Also, plus additional random stuff will be happening. Mad Men, I'm almost done with Mad Men, so I'll rank the seasons of that, do a tier list of the characters for that, so that should be fun, and I'll do that for any old TV show. You guys don't care when I cover the old TV shows episode by episode. That's a waste of time. So there's the Dubcast. I would love if you subscribe. Stay tuned. Big summer for movies as well, actually. Odyssey, Mandalorian, Grogu, Pressure. I plan on seeing all of these movies in the next couple months. Supergirl. What else is there? Whatever I see fit. And if you guys want me to go see a movie, I'll do it. I don't care. I'll go see Mortal Kombat 2 and review it. I'm trying to get out there in the theaters more. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys are looking for and what you thought of Relay. So as always, be easy, y'all.